Hello, money queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, ladies. Hello, money queens. Welcome back to another episode of Women Behind the Millions. And tonight's episode and all season long, we are talking the D word. Yes, ladies, divorced. Chances are you know somebody who's gone through a divorce. Maybe you're going through it. Please get this information out there to all the women who are going through it and need some help, need some resources, education. It's an overwhelming process. It's intimidating, stressful, and especially tonight's topic about what goes on in the court system when it comes to divorce. How long does it take? When does a judge get involved? Do I really need an attorney? Yes, we're going to get into all of the nitty gritty as well. And as I was thinking of tonight's episode, this prayer came to me and said, yes, this would work well. I'm for it. Allow me, divine, to move with the flow and respond with calmness and peace. I am yours, you are mine, we are one, all is well. Now, as I say that, you're probably like, what the heck, Jess? There's not a chance in hell that I can respond with calmness and peace right now. And one of the earlier shows, we talk about patience. And that's what this prayer is. It's giving you that beat, that moment to just sit back, see what's happening, and to stop being in such resistance mode, feeling like things are out of your control. You're trying to force things. You're rushing things along. Taking that beat, that moment to recenter yourself. And that's what my goal, my hope is from this season is that you get a lot of these different tools, prayers, exercises to arm yourself with, because emotions are going to be heightened. Things are going to get triggered. Your insecurities are going to be running rampant. How can you recenter or refocus? And with that, I'm going to bring on stage my co-host for this season, Donna Cates, our divorcers here at the Wealth Boutique. Welcome, Donna, to season 3, another episode of Women Behind the Millions.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for the whole season.
The whole season. Well, and how about tonight's episode? We are going to bring on stage with us shortly here and a family law attorney, a divorce attorney here, also in New Jersey. What are you looking forward to most about tonight's episode?
I am excited to have a professional that works in the legal field, that person that knows all the scary, dark stuff about the court system that none of us know, or most of us don't. Most of us don't have any experience dealing with the court system. As a matter of fact, I would say the majority of us only know what we see on television and in the movies, and the divorce court is so far removed from that. So I'm excited that we're going to have an attorney who is a litigator and knows what that process looks like, so she can help educate all of the women out there that don't know, that need to know, so they can kind of calm down their fears a bit.
Yes, and not make it so intimidating. Just the thought of being in front of a judge, you immediately feel like you've done something wrong. The sense of failure, removing that. And you talk about what we see in the movies, the TV shows, or what our girlfriends, the horror stories, the war stories they trade off around divorce. You need to get a shark lawyer. No, there is another way. And I think that's what brought all of these amazing professionals together. There's a better way of how we can do divorce. And there's a time and place for these different professionals as well. So tonight, as we said, we have with us Ann Edens. She's been practicing law for over 3 decades, such an amazing amount of experience. She's dedicated to serving family law clients with the highest level of respect and compassion. She's a founding partner of Eden's Law Group. Her passion for family law and wealth of knowledge make her a valuable resource for anyone facing legal struggles. So she is an attorney, she's a litigator, she's also a mediator. So welcome to the show, Ann Edens out of New Jersey, right down the street from us.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And it's nice to see you both, Jessica and Donna.
Oh, it's so great to see you. Thank you for being part of the book process, Divorce Decoded. Thank you for being here on the show. And for 3 decades, the amazing work that you've done helping women going through divorce.
Yes, 3 decades is a long time, and a lot of different women and different stories, and it's been wonderful.
What got you into practicing divorce and family law?
Well, there's no one reason. I don't think. I did go to law school, in full disclosure, after my divorce. So I was a few years older than a lot of the people in law school with me. But to be honest, my divorce, in hindsight, was probably the easiest divorce I've ever seen in my life. We were young, we had no money, we had no kids. I mean, it sailed through. So I didn't go into law school thinking, hey, I'm going to get out there and help women because I had such a terrible time. That is not the case at all. But I also knew I didn't want to be a paper pusher, that I was not going to fit into a corporate law, no matter how prestigious or how much money you could make. I needed to work with people because that's my passion. I like to think that I use, my 3+ decades of experience and my compassion for people to get the best result possible for my clients. And it is an amazing experience when you meet a woman who is just starting out and is at a terribly low point, and watch them grow, watch them become more self-confident, and watch them move forward. So it's a wonderful, wonderful area of law to practice, and very rewarding.
Wow. You see them at their worst. They probably sweatpants, right? So makeup at times. I'm just thinking of, right, when I've gone through heartbreak, right? How do you feel like dressing? Not putting much energy into it.
Yes.
And then helping them build their education, their confidence through the different matters and phases of divorce as well. Then I know you wanted to ask in something specific to women in divorce. I'm going to give you some time to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I know when I encounter women that are divorcing, they already have all these preconceived notions about what divorce is going to look like. One of them being that they're definitely going to go to trial or be in front of a judge. So I would love if you could just share with us some of the common misconceptions you've experienced, and especially as they relate to women and the court system.
Yes, Donna, and that's a very, very it's a very important point of all of this, because not unfortunately, because when a woman starts the divorce process, who's she going to? Her friends, her family, possibly coworkers if she's close with them, or she's Googling, she's seeing things on TV. And so much of that is unfortunately misinformation. So I think the whole experience is so different once a woman is involved in it. And one of the most important things, I think, or the most important thing, is to get information, honest information. So when I see a client for the first time, I do what's called a strategy session. It's not a consult. I'm not trying to sell the firm. What I'm doing is saying, give me your state of facts. It's usually at least an hour. Tell me what's going on. Tell me what's going on in your life. Start with the kids. What's going on with the kids? How are they doing? How are they getting through this? And then we just build on that information for their particular situation, because you may have heard, a client may have heard from the neighbor down the street, well, there's no alimony anymore. I mean, it's just a joke. Nobody ever gets it. Forget about it. You're going to be, out in the street. You need the information. You need to know what's going on. And family law changes so quickly. Is another piece that you really need to get the information is power. I mean, that's the best way I can put it. And I also think that divorcing is sort of a collaboration between you and your lawyer. It's not like you're going to a lawyer to dump your stuff on their desk and say, please fix this, because you have to be intimately involved. The client has to be intimately involved. The court system is a very interesting question. And I'm glad you asked it, Donna, because since COVID, at least in New Jersey, it has been a very different experience. We are still doing an awful lot of things remotely, which there's pros and cons. I mean, sometimes I think it's great. Sometimes I want to be in the courtroom so badly, seeing the judge, seeing the other clients, not on TV. But the reality is that most cases settle in New Jersey. 95% of cases settle. And Donna, the mediation that you do is a huge part of that. I know you're not in our state, but I'm talking nationwide. Mediation is a fabulous way to reach an agreement. And the courts really do support people in mediation. They're very pro mediation. So when you hear, oh my gosh, I'm going to go before a judge, it's not happening. It really isn't. There are interim motions that need to be filed if there's an emergency application. But other than that, your case isn't going to be War of the Roses TV show or movie. It's going to be mostly negotiations, rolling up your sleeves and figuring out how to protect your family and your children.
You brought up children a few times here, and has that always been kind of your focus and priority to make sure that things at home are okay so that they can keep moving forward?
Yes. And that's why when I sit down with a new client, we start with the children, because that is, they're so precious and so easily hurt in this process. So one of the goals of any good attorney I know is to sort of mitigate the animosity between the parents as much as possible. It's not always possible. And obviously, I'm a litigator. I've done custody trials. They're heartbreaking. I've done, full divorce trials. Again, heartbreaking. You're dividing up money, but it all comes back to the kids, how they're going to be, living their lives when this is all over and the court system's out of it. So yeah, we really have to focus on keeping things as calm as possible in the home. Mediation can do that, but attorneys can do that too.
Sure. Very good. Something else Donna and I were talking about earlier are there any unique challenges to women going through divorce?
Well, yes, absolutely. I think, and this is sort of a general statement, but it's still, I just met with a client today who's been a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. You think everyone is out there in the working world and they understand finances and they're ready to, go, but that's not really the scenario that I'm seeing. It could be partially the area we're in is fairly wealthy. And so maybe you don't need both parents to work, but I do still see a lot of women that either are underemployed in a sense that they're not earning the same as their spouse, not that they're, underemployed for any other reason, or they made a choice as a family to have a mom stay at home with the children, which is great. There's, no reason not to. But then things really hit them hard. And again, I think the misinformation that a lot of women hear is that, unfortunately, I do hear a lot that their husbands are saying to them is, you haven't done anything. I've done all the work in this family. All the money is mine. So right there, dead stop. That's not how it works, but that's what they're hearing and that's what they're being told. So I think there is a big difference for women. I think women, and again, a generalization, can tend to be more compassionate. They worry. I hear a lot more worry about, is my spouse going to be okay? Is my husband going to be okay? Well, I shouldn't take that much because he won't have enough to live. He's told me he won't have enough to live, anything like that. But the great thing with working with women, as I said, is that you can see the process as they grow, as they get stronger, as they realize they're going to be okay on their own. And also that it is much easier. Again, a generalization. I'm certainly not saying there's no men, but it's a lot easier to keep bringing them back to the focus of the children being the most important part.
Yes. We talk about the worrying, right? We're always thinking about everybody else. We're last. And I've heard that exact comment, and I'm sure Donna has too. He's told me he's not going to have enough money, so I'm going to take as little as possible to survive off of. And, he's saying that probably in a state of fear and anger.
Yes.
And also not educated on, what does that truly look like.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a huge piece of it. They don't. A lot of women have never dealt with the finances. They don't really know. So if their husband or a friend or somebody says to them, "Look, if you get $5,000 a month, you're going to be doing great with 3 kids and sports activities and everything else." Well, certainly not where we live in New Jersey. That's not going to do it. It's important that they understand what money is, how it works, and how they're going to go forward with the money they have.
Oh, yes. Yes. Talking about assets here and money, I get the question a lot. When does the value of the assets stop growing or changing, right? Is there a time when it pauses, it kind of freezes that value in time? So we don't think worrying what happens after that?
Yes. When you've actually filed a complaint for divorce, so if a client comes in to me, they say, "Yes, I'm ready. I want to file a complaint for divorce." We file it with the court. The court gives it a docket number and a filing date. That filing date is what we call the cutoff date for the accrual of assets and the accrual of debts. So that is the end date of what the asset base is going to look like. Now, that being said, New Jersey is an equitable distribution state, so there's a lot of gray areas. Again, this is where you need the information. So we have what are called passive and active assets, and I'm sure you deal with that a lot. But let's say you have a brokerage fund, and that fund has either gains or losses between the time of the filing of the complaint and the time that you're dividing it. Those passive gains or losses will be divided between the parties. So although the cutoff date is the date of the filing, as I said, the passive or active gains or losses will be a part of the asset distribution.
And if I can speak to that really quickly, I was just speaking with somebody that's not filed for divorce yet, and her husband is actually taking money from their savings account. So he's just pulling it out and putting it somewhere else so she doesn't have access to it. And she's feeling like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do? He's going to take all the money." And I was sharing with her just what you said. Nothing happens until you file. But once you file, now you can have that status quo order that says, don't do anything any differently. Maintain everything as it has been through the duration of the divorce.
Absolutely. That is absolutely true, Donna. And one of the things that I repeat over and over is when I'm talking to a client is I can't tell you when to file for divorce because this is a huge emotional impact on your life, your family. You have to be ready to file. But I can give you my legal advice. And if you have a husband who is going to start hiding money and you wait 6 months, you have handed him 6 months to hide this money, to dissipate it, to go to Atlantic City, whatever he's going to do, spend it on a girlfriend. So it is important legally to get those papers filed. Now, I think a lot of people are worried. Number one, well, if I'm the one that files, I hear this a lot, he'll tell the kids that I divorced him and that will be the end of the world. Excuse me. And that's just not the case. Usually it ends up with a counterclaim. You divorce each other. It's over. Nobody really looks back at who divorced who. But also just the idea that you are the one taking that, what I call the step off the diving board. You're the one who's starting the whole process. And the idea that once you're in the court system, again, going back to the misinformation, I'll be in court next week. I'll have a judge yelling at me. It's a lawsuit. It's terrible. I'm a plaintiff or I'm a defendant or I'm named in a lawsuit. And family law we have our own courts. They're different from civil and criminal courts, and they're not scaled that way. You're still named plaintiff or defendant, but nobody is any better or any worse than one that files or doesn't file.
You just generated a question for me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to ask this. So I have always told the women that I work with that they must work with a divorce attorney, not somebody that does a little bit of criminal, a little bit of this or a little bit of that, the estate planning and all. I prefer to see women when they're able to, in their court systems in their counties, to actually hire the divorce attorney. And I'm going to let you tell our listeners why that would be so important when you're selecting your attorney.
Well, I think I did mention it already, but I would love to expand on it, that family law changes from day to day. Literally, it changes from judge to judge sometimes. It's not, for example, if you compare it to a personal injury suit, you fell in a parking lot, you broke your arm. You can go to a list and say a broken arm in a parking lot is worth X amount of money. Family law is all over the map. So things can change on a heartbeat. So if you go to an attorney who's a general practitioner and does a couple divorces a year, they can't possibly keep up with the nuances and the changes. And the other piece is that having been here doing this for 30 years in the same town, and I cover 5 counties around us extensively, and then farther out counties also, but I know the judges. So I know this judge is going to be leaning this way, and this is what this judge needs to hear from you. So again, if you have a general practitioner, they're not going to have the intimate knowledge of the judge's biases. And I know judges are supposed to be unbiased, so I'm not trying to say that there's anything untoward going on, but we're all human, and you can learn from your particular judge how to present a case. So it is very important to have a family lawyer to help you.
Yes. Thank you, Anne. I've seen estate documents done by the real estate attorneys or the divorce attorneys, and they weren't even signed or notarized. I don't know what was going on here, but use the specialty attorneys for whatever it is you're going through. In this case, divorce, family law as well. What are some ways, Anne, that women can start preparing? Let's say they just started thinking about divorce. How can they start preparing themselves to meet with somebody like you?
Well, there are a lot of things you can do. Information gathering, I think, is the most important. And I have clients that come in with literally bags that they dump on my desk, receipts, whatever they found. That's fine. I can deal with that. The ones that come in with the nice little spreadsheets, a little bit happier to see that, but it's all okay. But it's gathering the information, because again, if you're not the spouse paying the bills, you really don't know what things are costing. So I really encourage people to start paying attention, ask questions, even if it's going to annoy him, or go to the bank and say, how much is my monthly mortgage payment? They're not going to laugh or think it's silly. It's a reasonable question. I mean, you are the owner of the home. You want to know what your monthly mortgage payment is. You want to know how much is still owed on that mortgage. Is it up to date? Have the payments been made? Is there a chance that we're going to go into, default here? You don't know these things. You need to get the information. I also encourage my clients to always look at mail coming in the house. You can't open mail addressed to your husband, but let's say an envelope comes in from Bank of America, and you're thinking, I didn't think we had any accounts there. Well, take a snapshot of it, because we can subpoena that information. If it doesn't show up when we ask your husband, where do you have bank accounts? And Bank of America is not on there. Well, why are you getting that envelope in? So there's a lot of information you can gain that way. And the other piece is to work with your kids. And I think that's so important. And it's a very fine line, and ages are so important here. But the gist is that the kids are going to go through this. You don't want to involve them in it absolutely, they do not need to know what's in the court papers. They should never have read your complaint for divorce. They should never have read your motion. But you need to be honest with them and tell them both your parents love you. What can I do to help? Is there anything that's on your mind? Is there anything concerning you? So I think, working in that direction, I know a lot of people come in and even 6 months into it, they're still, well, we haven't told the children yet. Well, kids are really intuitive. So you may not have told them, but they're probably more scared wondering what's going on than if you have an open and honest conversation. So I do encourage people to work on that also.
Gathering information. I love the tip on the observing things. Something new, take a picture of it, document it for future. I thought of this one case, and I always called it the $1 million meeting. And this was years ago. This woman came in, didn't understand the money. He was a high up executive, stock options, right? She had no idea about the stock options, several $100,000 there. And he was selling them to buy the engagement ring for the new girlfriend for it too. So it was messing up the tax returns, and he's trying to declare the stock options were his income. Like, no, separate piece of it as well. It was about $1 million of assets that we were able to uncover. So if you have a hunch that something is off, take note of it. We just had one, and it was a tax bill from the IRS. That was a 6-figure tax bill.
Yeah.
From back then as well. And how about, I hear this too, agreements made during the marriage of this is your money, honey. This is yours to keep and do with what you want to, or this is your business. I'm not going to touch it. What would you say to that man?
Well, if it's because you're putting what's considered marital money, which is either earned money or if it's gifted to both parties, into 2 separate accounts and says this is yours and this is mine, that's just not true, because it's actually all going to be put into the same pot and divided. So if your husband were to give you, here's $20,000, it's your nest egg, put it over there, and he keeps 150, you don't end up with the 20 and him with the 150. You're dividing 170. In New Jersey, however, there are certain assets that are what's called exempt from equitable distribution, such as inheritance, if it's not commingled, meaning you get your inheritance, you put it into a separate account in your own name, and you never put his name on it, or you never take it and I see a lot of times, I got an inheritance and I put it into the house. I put in a new kitchen and new bathrooms and a deck. Well, that, if the house is in joint names, that becomes a commingled asset. So that they're, again, there's so many nuances in the law that you really kind of need. There are arguments that you should get some of that money back and reuse them, but that's the kind of basics there.
Oh, good. Thank you. I love having Anna on, Donna, because we can give legal advice. So I'm asking her all the questions, the legal questions that I get all the time. This is very helpful.
Good.
Great research.
It's literally why we encourage women to go ahead and have that consultation with an attorney ahead of time, because there's so many things that they don't know that they need to be thinking about, and to at least get that groundwork laid out for them so that they can get their mind around what they need to be focusing on. I think that can be so empowering to people.
Yes.
So, and I'm curious to know, I know there's no right or wrong answer, but when you're looking at a timeline for divorce, this is something I'm always asked, is how long is it going to take me? And that question is just not a good question, because there's no right answer. But tell me what you say to people when they ask you, how long is it going to take me to get this divorce done?
Yeah, there's some general guidelines. It varies a little bit from county to county around here, because some of the counties right now are still trying to get back on base after COVID. But if you both, there's going to be anger, there's going to be emotions. No one's saying there's not going to be, and no one's trying to tell you not to feel that way, because that's not possible, obviously, nor is it reasonable. But if we can roll up our sleeves and put our heads together and figure out how we're going to make this family work in two different places, how the kids are going to be parented, all that kind of thing, I would say the 6 months is a pretty reasonable length of time, because I will tell you that once, if I work on a case and we reach resolution and we sign an agreement, if I call the court and tell them I have a settled case, I just need to put through the divorce, which they're allowing to be done without an appearance now, they are so happy to hear that. They're so happy to have it off their docket. They'll get me in within a week. So the time is what it's going to take to reach that agreement. If you have an issue of, one partner or the other owning a business, that's going to take a bit longer because you're going to need some experts, a forensic expert, that kind of thing. Or if there's an issue of custody, a real issue of custody, not just parenting time. Okay, I have 4 overnights and you have 3, and that's not fair. We just have to massage that. If there's really issues about a parent's ability to spend, extensive time with the children, and we need, again, a forensic psychologist, that's going to take, I would say probably 12 to 18 months. If you're one of those 5% that's going to be waiting for a trial in New Jersey, I'm going to say 4 to 5 years. It's just awful right now. And I hate to say that. It's where I practice, but they're just so backed up. COVID has, really backed things up. But even before COVID, there was a backup. There just aren't enough trial judges. We are short, I think, overall 20 judges, and it makes a difference.
And I think that just knowing that, if somebody knows up front that if you aren't willing to negotiate as reasonable, responsible adults, this is what you're in for. And it's going to cost you a lot more. It's going to take your time. You're going to be stuck in this place. That's incentive to me to get my ducks in a row and make things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I keep talking about the end, when I see people, starting their lives, feeling more empowered and all of that, that's a real goal. If you can do that in 6 months, you're starting your new life, and you're in a new place, not physically necessarily, but you're in a new place emotionally, new place with your kids, with your family, with your friends. Yeah, you want to get to that point. And the sooner the better. I'm not saying you should rush through it in 3 weeks without thinking about it, but you don't want to wait for a trial judge. You just don't.
No, great incentive, as you said, Donna, for it as well. Well, as you can tell, ladies, Anne is an expert here. She spent 3 decades in the family law legal space. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but you do not want to go away, because she's going to give us her divorce tip, her divorce trends. I'm going to bring up one that I've been noticing. I want to get her opinion and Donna's expert opinion on as well. So stay with us, ladies.
So what are the real reasons people are having these feelings or having these repeating patterns of money issues? And I wanted to dig deep into those areas. What are the triggers? What are the emotions? Let's actually have some healing instead of just doing a quick fix. So having those 2 different kind of conflicts in me, I decided, I begged my father, can I just focus on women? Can I reach women? Can I dig deep with them? Have events for women? That spurred my first book, Strong Women, Stronger Assets, my second book, Time to Refine, and then finally Confessions of a Money Queen. And so here I am, not your father's advisor, years later, opening up the Women's Wealth Boutique, the fastest growing female-owned firm in the nation. But we're also a multimedia firm, because our goal is to get resources, financial education, literacy out to women. Even one of our biggest viewers for our blog is in underdeveloped countries, for women, getting them the financial resources that they don't have access to at all. So you can work with us as a one-on-one capacity as a full-time client, or you can be part of our community just with our events, our books, our online courses. There's so many different ways to get engaged with us. So one, we focus on women, and we will not apologize for it, but also we are a multimedia firm, which is very different than the traditional financial advisory offices you see.
We are back, And right now, best part of the show, in my opinion, we are going to get Ann Eden's divorce tip, or hot and juicy tip. And what do you have for us today?
I think, it's a little repetitive, but information. I think that is probably a number one tip that I have. Just arm yourself with the information. I also think, and it's part of the experience of being involved in this book, which has been amazing, is all the people that are out there. I am constantly telling my clients, it's probably a good idea if you speak to a therapist. Or do you think your children need to speak to someone right now, particularly the preteens and teens that are sort of struggling, and they want someone that's not their mom or dad because mom and dad are a little bit preoccupied right now. Is this a good time for a therapist? Is this a good time for a life coach that it's going to help you kind of see forward past that date where you get your judgment? I'm no longer a part of it. I like to know my clients have someone there. Maybe they're going to start a new chapter with a new career. Maybe they're going back to school. Maybe they're looking into, anything that they may have put off and want to do now. A little plug here, but there's so many women's centers around. There's one at our local county college that are absolutely amazing as far as helping women put together resumes, helping women to just learn the basics of computer skills that they may be far behind on, things like that. So you can do that during the process of the divorce and be ready to hit the ground running when you are when you're finished, or a month afterwards, or 6 months afterwards. As far as the legal prospect, I think you kind of need to clear. A tip that I would have is just clear your mind. I'm constantly telling my clients to breathe, because I see them come in and hold their breath for 5 minutes while I'm talking. And going, got to calm down. You've got to breathe. That this is going to be over too. It's statistically, divorce is right below death of a spouse as on the stress charts. So it's a huge life event. So number one, don't disregard that. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself know that this is a terrible thing to go through. It may not be a terrible thing that's happening, but it is a terrible thing to go through. It's very, very tough. Reach out. I've had people say that they set aside time with their best friend once a week to talk about what happened this week with their kids, their spouse, their lawyer, whatever, in court if they had to be in court. So allow yourself to reach out to people and get help from them. As far as working with your lawyer, it's very, very important. Number one, always be honest. I don't judge anybody for anything. So let me know what's going on, because that way I'm prepared to work with it, and I'm prepared to work with you. So if you're having a really hard time controlling your temper, even with your kids, I'm really going to be talking about getting a family therapist, getting somebody in there, I know you don't want to hurt or scare your children, but if you can tell me that you're in a place where you feel like you can't control your anger, let me know, because I will direct you to the right place. Also, just legally, don't forget to tell me that you have a $500,000 inheritance that your husband knows about, and it's going to broadside me when I'm in front of a judge. Just tell me everything. I will sift through it. I don't judge, and I will put you on the track where we need to be. Listen to your lawyer, I think, is another huge tip, because I get so many clients, and again, especially women, that will say to me, but my husband told me. I will say, okay, this is what's going to happen, X, Y, and Z. Oh, no. My husband told me that the judge is going to yell at me and I'll probably get into a lot of trouble and he's going to take the children away. Okay. I know that you've had a long relationship with your husband, but at this juncture in your life, he's probably not your biggest advocate. He's probably not really on your side. As amicable as you're going to be, you need to listen not so much to him and a lot more to your lawyer. So take the 3 decades of experience, use it for all you've got. Do as much work as you can on your own is another tip. If a lawyer says, okay, we need to find out these 3 things, offer to try to do it if you have time. That's going to save you money in your divorce. And one of the things that we are very, very cautious about is our clients' money, because it's not something that you want to spend your money on. I'd rather see it go into a 529 account for the children. So I think those are probably the biggest tips.
Ooh, that was great, Anne. I love don't belittle the divorce process.
Yeah.
Because it is a huge moment in your life.
Yes.
Whether you wanted the divorce or you did not. It's completely altering everything in your life.
Absolutely.
Form your tribe. As you said, I like that, having that consistent call with your girlfriend. I remember my good friend went through a divorce and she goes, I knew at the moment if I was really angry, I needed to call that friend who could talk me down. If I needed to talk through something, I needed that friend who was very good at listening. And she knew kind of who to talk to at the different moments of it as well. But respecting the professional experts' advice in strategy and what they're saying is huge. And I think, Donna, you and I can agree with that with our work as well. How about trying to Google their divorce? Can somebody just Google DIY the divorce, Anne?
The short answer to that is no, because again, there's a lot of misinformation. But it's human nature at this point. And then where we are in 2024, people are going to Google. So I know my clients are going to Google. So I'm always ready for, but I read or I Googled or I looked up. And then I don't want to discourage necessarily or make them feel like put down. I want them to know, okay, good. I'm glad you're taking an active part in this. Let me explain how that really works. So I don't advise it as your only method, but if you want to look up some things, go ahead and then talk to your lawyer about it. Because there may be questions or issues that are not on the table yet that you want to address, that Google is going to say, hey, what about this? And then you can bring it to your professional and get, the clear-cut answer to it. So it is what it is, and it's not going away. So we learn to work with it.
Yeah, researching terms, the process, what happens, right? The different pathways of divorce as well. I've gotten recently more and more. I saw this on TikTok, and it's a 2-minute video. I'm like, it's a little bit more complex than a 2-minute video, but
I don't know what that was.
You sign. We'll edit that out.
It's not me. I'm still in my chair, so we're okay.
The ghost. Yeah, the ghost of your ex.
The ghost, yes.
All right. Well, let's segue into the trend that you're noticing in the divorce world lately. What's been going on?
There's actually been a lot of very interesting trends. I think, again, going back to COVID, I think a lot of people kind of had a rebirth isn't the right word, but number one, you've got now a couple who may not have been doing great to begin with in the house together, and that can cause a lot of tension. So that is something I saw, particularly right at the end of COVID. But I also think people kind of thought through, well, what's my life all about? And is this where I want to be in 10 years? And, people were dying from COVID, family members, friends, coworkers. And I think it was sort of a wake-up call to, to reaching out for their own happiness, whatever that might be. And at times it was, working through a divorce. Another trend that I'm seeing a lot is, and I'm not sure why, is people going for annulments rather than divorces. I want to say in the past 30 plus years that I've been practicing, from 5 years ago back, I may have had 2 annulments, and I probably get 1 a month now. So again, I don't know if it had anything to COVID or if people are, again, I have to grab life by its horns, meaning I have to run to that chapel and get married tomorrow and then go oops the next day. But I have been seeing a lot of annulments, and that's an interesting and different kind of concept. It works very differently in the law. I know we don't have time to go into that, but a divorce and annulment are 2 very different animals. I am seeing a lot more people hiring attorneys, which I think is great, but also being more, I don't know, cautious is the right word, but they really think through why they want a professional and become more of a team member with them. And I think that's just, I think there is also a trend where people are getting divorced at an older age or after a longer term marriage. So maybe they're just a little bit more sophisticated and know that they do need someone to get them through this. But I am seeing we are very busy. There are a lot of clients coming in the door. There are a lot of older clients, the gray divorces now, which they still tend to kind of shock me when someone comes in after 45 years of marriage. And I'm kind of thinking, wow, how did that happen? But they're not that much different. It's still a very sad event in their lives. And the children tend to be older, and yet they're still affected. There's grandchildren. And then, the changing laws, and we haven't really touched on this, but, the domestic violence laws are changing all the time. There's now, since the beginning of 2024, they've changed the domestic violence to include financial violence, as they call it, or it's controlling someone by money. And we've seen that my whole career, but they're finally putting a name on it and saying, yes, that is domestic abuse. When you give your wife $1,500 to run the household for a month, and then you go buy a new BMW and do whatever you want, that's a type of violence. And it also keeps the woman, She can't go because she doesn't have the money. She doesn't have the money to afford an attorney. She doesn't have the money to put gas in her car. Whatever it is, it's a real thing, and it's finally being seen by the court system, which is
we need that.
Yeah,
we need that, Donna. We see this
absolutely. I think it's a great thing
all the time. Well, thank you, Anne, so much. Lots of different trends. The annulment is very interesting to me. Glad to see the financial abuse. There's an amazing organization, Savvy Ladies, shout out to them, that help with financial abuse and giving women the education and resources to get out and help them get out as well. Well, yeah, I can't believe our time is coming to a close here on Women the Millions. We have one more question for you.
Mm-hmm. What makes you a woman behind the millions?
I think the 35 years that I've been practicing family law is that I've represented women in just about every aspect of life, from very wealthy women in debt, stay-at-home moms, women who've been the primary breadwinner in a very, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, unconventional marriage where you had a stay-at-home dad, and women subject to domestic abuse. So knowing all those things and having the compassion and experience to work with the clients through that, I think really brings me to the place that I am now. And what I touched on before, knowing the judges, knowing the court system, knowing and I didn't mention this, but it is absolutely crucial, knowing this judge's staff, because actually they have more power to get things put through for you than actually the judge, because they are the worker bees behind the scene. They are fabulous. It is a lot of women, it's men too, but the people who actually make the court system run are, if you don't know them, if you don't have an in with them, it's a much tougher place to navigate. So I think that's all led up to a compassion and winning strategy, and that's where I am.
Oh, amazing, Anne. Thank you so much for being part of Divorce Decoded, being on the show tonight, Women Behind the Millions, our divorce season, all season long. There she is, ladies. And thank you to our co-host, Donna Cates from Alabama, our divorce source of the Wealth Boutique. And we will see all of you next week when we bring on another divorce professional, all really trying to change the experience of divorce for women, give you more resources and support. And as you can tell, Anne, thank you for diving into the legal side of it. So important. What a great interview. We will see you all next week on Women Behind the Millions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jessica and Donna, both. It's been fun.
Hey, money queens, looking to get your wealth to that next level, 7, 8, 9 figures? Follow us on Instagram at PinkFixMyMoney and at Women's Wealth Boutique for more millionaire money